Today we start the 6th chapter. We're in the second part now. Our dear protagonist looks like is about to get her second lesson from her guru. She hasn't actually called him a guru yet, but it's clear that is what's happening. On the secrets of immortality from the tradition of Advaita Vedanta. They're reading from the Mandukya Upanishad. Maybe we'll have to read from that one day, but I'm definitely not as qualified as Sid, who is teaching her. Let's dive right into it. We were to meet at the riverbank that morning, but a steady pounding of heavy drops drove us to take shelter at the ashram library. A dusty, somnolent room, with its shelves of mothetan, cloth-bound volumes of sacred texts oddly interspersed with worn popular paperbacks. Or moth-eaten. What did I say? Moth-eaten? I've made it into one word. Moth-eaten cloth-bound volumes, oddly interspersed with worn popular paperbacks. I was reminded of Miss Nandi's miscellaneous collection, her Sanskrit teacher, and wondered if she had a hand in organizing this one. The elderly librarian in orange robes, the sole inhabitant, nodded briefly at Sid, glanced over his bifocals at me, and returned to his morning paper. We settled at a table, and soon the boy from the kitchen, who'd brought me tea and biscuits early that morning, was at the library holding a tray with 2 mugs of tea. After a whispered negotiation with the old librarian, the boy was allowed to approach us. "That boy works here 24/7, I said, tersely. My early morning foray to the river followed by a solitary breakfast of cold chapatis and a lentil concoction that had left me out of sorts. "He served us lunch yesterday," I said, "and when I got back just last night, he was washing up the kitchen. At 4:30 this morning, he brought me tea and biscuits. Aren't there child labor laws? Shouldn't he be in school?" I asked. I was remembering the girls, burned and beaten, the ones that her associate Pepe was taking care of, and how Pepe's care and attention had made them want to live. "Which boy do you mean?" Sid asked. "There are 2 of them. Brothers. They're here for the holidays. Their mother works at one of the hostels. She likes to have them here, where they are safe and kept busy." "Oh, I didn't realize," I muttered, embarrassed by the mistake. "But in any case, they work all hours. Where is their father?" "He works abroad. Sees them about 2 times a year," Sid replied. "Why can't he get a job here? You know, at one of the fancy hotels catering to the whitewater rafting crowd." "Is that what you want?" he asked. "What I want?" I laughed, then said more to myself than to him, "Yes, that is what I want." The hot sugary tea reminded me of Miss Nandi, and I felt a pang of remorse. Was I betraying her by listening to Sid? "Hello, Noor." The teaching began again. Sid asked, "Do you have any questions?" Me, blowing on my tea. "Your Brahman sounds suspiciously like the almighty god of conventional religion. At the bottom, there has to be blind faith. Does God of cathedrals, mosques, temples, synagogues, and the like exist?" Sid replied, "Of course God exists. As a dependent reality, borrowing his or her essence from Brahman." "God? A dependent reality? Not really real? Really?" I asked, astonished. Sid replied, "God inhabits the dependent reality that you do. Otherwise, how can you have a relationship with God? For a devotee to have a relationship with the deity, both have to live in the same reality. How can God and I be the same? I retorted. Sid answered, you share the same reality with God, but that doesn't mean you are the same as God. That would be like equating the wave with the ocean because both are water. You, the individual, are the wave. God is the ocean. Brahman is the water. Where does God come from? I then asked. God is like you. An appearance in that universal consciousness, Brahman. For the sages, God, or Ishvara in Sanskrit, enters his creation and is his creation. Others see God as a supervisor, up there somewhere, taking note, separate from his creation. Any explanation of God's origin, presence, and actions is valid. Whatever works for you is fine. So, how is God's presence felt? I asked. Sid continued. To cross a river, you acquire a seaworthy boat. You untie the anchor, unfurl the sails. All this is your effort. God's grace comes in the form of a fine wind. A farmer removes weeds and stones and digs a canal to carry water onto his field. Then the rain, God's grace, arrives. I clarified. So, I can have a relationship with God, but not Brahman, the ultimate reality, consciousness? Sid said, you cannot have a relationship with Brahman because you are Brahman. Can you have a relationship with yourself? Fair enough, I said, but what about scientific discovery? Could this ultimate reality, you term Brahman, be pervasive dark energy, dark matter? Sid, smiling, as if at a private joke, Western scientists are the truly religious. They are pure of heart and revel in the glory of the universe, not in the gods and their tall tales. Scientists use their brilliant minds, their microscopes, colliders, accelerators, lenses, telescopes, and mirrors to measure, weigh, dissect, bisect, and analyze. Whatever they discover, however insignificant, delights them, for which, like children, they confer medals on each other. Remember, just 400 years ago, these very people insisted that the sun revolved around the earth and that the earth was the center of the universe. I continued. If I accept the notion that there is a universal consciousness, Brahman, from which this illusory and changing universe manifests as an appearance, the question remains, why all this? How, when, and where did all this begin? The Big Bang? Sid retorted, your question is wrong. You are treating Brahman as an object, a thing. When is a time question. Time began with Maya, the appearance. Brahman is beyond time. Similarly, where is a space question. Space arrived with Maya, as did causation, the why question. Brahman is beyond time, space, and causation. Creation theories are interesting, the how question, but not particularly relevant. Any one of those theories will do. If you subscribe to the Big Bang Theory, then what was before the Big Bang? Or the cracking of a cosmic egg, or the production of something from nothing by a superior being? I don't understand, I said. Sid continued. It's as foolish as asking, why do you go to Tokyo in your dream last night? To conduct business? Eat sushi? Meaningless questions. The hurdle we face is the limitation of language, which can only describe the empirical world, the world trapped within time, space, and causation. As mentioned, the ancient rishis, to overcome this shortcoming, define Brahman by stating what Brahman is not. Through implied meanings, through silence. I said, unseen, incommunicable, intangible, featureless, unthinkable, indefinable, unchanging, auspicious, and non-dual. This philosophy... Sid interrupted, this is not philosophy. There are no theories, ideas, concepts, speculations to explain the universe. This is an investigation you conduct by yourself, on yourself. I said, my stumbling point is your use of the word consciousness, which to me is my mind, my thoughts, reflections, my intelligence. If I get knocked on the head, I lose consciousness, and all of that disappears. Sid replied, you are referring to medical consciousness that can be objectively measured to determine responsiveness to the environment. We are discussing reflected consciousness, capital C, which is entirely subjective, private, and cannot be measured. A futuristic robot could pass the test for being medically conscious, yet would have no subjective experience at all. What then is reflected consciousness? I asked. The awareness you feel right now is reflected consciousness. It's as if the mind catches a spark of universal consciousness, Brahman, and channels it. The mind cannot be Brahman because the mind changes. You are alert at times, dull at others. In deep sleep, you have no awareness. Look into a mirror. Your face is a reflection of the real you. The reflection is close to you, identical to you, but not you. You need to turn into yourself, away from your reflection. But even so, I asked, couldn't this universal consciousness be an emanation of the brain? In deep sleep, the mind and body are inactive, but the brain continues its ceaseless toil. Neuroscience has made huge leaps in understanding the brain's various functions, and scientists are continually astonished by its power. Ah, the mighty brain, Sid said. The brain is being mapped, and the expectation is that consciousness will be found lurking in one of the convolutions of the brain. Not much of an advance over Descartes' laughable notion that the soul lives in the versatile pineal gland or pineal gland. To conclude that the brain, 3 pounds of inert gray matter, produces consciousness is like imagining that a table lamp itself, rather than the electricity, causes light to emanate from it. The brain is the instrument, not the cause. It's a very short chapter. We've come to the end of that chapter, but in between chapters I'll read this extra secondary plot that's happening simultaneously. See, our book and its protagonists are actually divine incarnations, though they don't realize it at the worldly level. Here is the very same story, but from the perspective of the divine. Sid, who was really Lord Shiva, and Hari, Lord Vishnu, communed across the expanses of the universe. She views these teachings, Sid said, referencing the Mandukya, as abstract intellectual wordplay, convoluted reasoning, Metaphysical gymnastics. Why on earth did you recommend it? I thought it would save time, Hari said, but I didn't expect you to take up Gaudapada's Karika. How could I not? The Mandukya cannot be fully appreciated with that crusty old man's 200 plus verses. You're a stickler for proper form. I'm more the pragmatist. Bhakti, loving devotion, blind faith in the Almighty would have been my choice rather than this esoteric, hardcore reasoning. She does not believe, so how can bhakti work? Removal of ignorance is the only option. She must wake up, Hari insisted. Evil forces are gaining in strength and numbers. He paused. Why not try the all-purpose Gita? Widely popular, memorized and recited, a book for all seasons. No one suffers angst like that of Arjuna. Always have to have the Gita on hand. Pepe would be pleased. Didn't he put it together? Pepe is sulking. He's obsessed with teaching his girls, his gopis, to dance. And how on earth did Luv and Kush enter the scene? Siddh was alluring to Hari's fiercely independent twin sons from eons ago, when Hari took the avatar of the compassionate Sri Rama. In this aeon, Luv and Kush were the kitchen help, Damu and Ramu. Hari laughed. They pushed themselves in. They loved play acting and wanted to showcase their talents. They found it hard work. She was about to call the police on a charge of child abuse. I had to come up with a plausible story, and quickly. Hari turned thoughtful. And Ganesha? Is he... Not yet, the great lord said. Both went silent. Without the auspicious one, nothing could truly begin. So we'll pause our reading of Moksha, liberation, there for now. Thank you very much for listening. And again, I'm so grateful for the author, dear Tara, to allow us to read this. I've been kept updated on the fact that she is very happy with the progress we have been making and my reading of it. So I wanted you to know that too. Namaste.